Good day and welcome to Mr. Wilson Live, the premier Caribbean education show where we try to educate or to disseminate information regarding biology and human and social biology, as it were, for the CXC CSEC syllabus. It is a bright evening on the outside. However, COVID is still with us. I'm not too sure what's happening in St. Vincent, but to my friend in St. Vincent, good day. I'm seeing what's happening in the news. I hope that whatever the issues are, they will be resolved pretty soon. I reckon in our last live that a number of persons were not here, and I was told that the problem was the change of the thumbnail. Persons were looking for that thumbnail. However, we did put out a new thumbnail for what we want to call the Biomarathon or Mr. Wilson Marathon. That begins pretty much today. So we're going to be looking at some content, after which we're going to be looking at some past papers or a past paper. And then that should take us to the end of the evening. So a whole lot we have to cover. I was looking at the syllabus for HSB and I'm seeing that we have about 4 weeks left, effectively about 4 weeks. If we were supposed to continue at 1 hour, I'm hoping that we'll be able to finish in time. I really want to go through variation and continuity and variation again for both syllabus with the students. So welcome. If your friends are not here, call them over. If your enemy is not here, call them over. It's a new day and we're going to do this a new way. So today we want to look at drugs. That's what we want to look at. And when we talk about drugs, several stories can be told about drugs. Now, the first thing comes to mind once anyone would have said drugs or anything related to drugs, it is usually something negative. And it's usually something negative because drugs is so popularly or so often used wrongly or abused. So persons come to know about drugs as a result of its abuse. But let me remind us that there are also good drugs. And the definition for drugs will help us to realize that there are so many drugs, prescription and otherwise, because all that a drug is pretty much a chemical which alters the normal function of the body. That is all that a drug is, a chemical that alters the normal function of the body. So we have several things that could be considered to be a drug. It's important to note as I tell the story about drugs that drugs usually affect metabolic action within the body. And if drugs is overused, drugs could also cause some amount of poisoning to the person who is abusing the drugs. Interestingly, drugs will cause psychological and physical change to an individual who abuses the drugs. Now, some changes that are likely to be seen with persons taking drugs include this drastic change in behavior. This drastic change in behavior. I particularly like this part of the syllabus because it falls into the last portion of your syllabus, the last portion of your books. And this is pretty much the content for most students that they would not be able to touch at school. Fortunately, we're touching it online. For those persons who are just joining or joining for the first time, welcome to the show. I am Mr. Wilson and we're streaming from Kingston, Jamaica. If you have not yet liked, share, or subscribe, I will just give you a short lesson as to how to get going as a student on YouTube. So our student lesson for the first time YouTubers. Yes, YouTube is a platform from which you can garner a whole lot of information that are pertinent to almost any subject area you're studying at school. Let me take you on a journey through the YouTube interface. So you're seeing me from what we call the screen, or some might say a window. Let us explore that window. To the top right of that window, there is a little circle for most of my videos, or most videos, with an inverted exclamation mark, and that shows us pretty much a suggested video. Below this video, to the right, there is a subscription button. When you click that subscription button, make sure that you click on the bell as well and select all. When you select all, you will be privy to all the content that is sent out. For example, the students who were not able to join us on Friday, or was it on Sunday? On Wednesday, sorry. The students who were not able to join us on Wednesday, they were not able to join us because they did not click the notification bell and selected all. They were pretty much familiar with the thumbnail that we've been using for a year, and the fact that it has changed, they did not realize. So it's very important, whether you are an old student or a long-time student or one of those students who is always here, it is very important that you click the notification bell and select all, even if you have subscribed already. Now, to the right of this save button that you're seeing below the video, there are three little dots we call ellipses. If you were supposed to click on one of my videos, you'd see a new pane open, clicking on any of those dots, or those three little dots, and you'd have a flag and open transcript. If you click on open transcript, it will give you the text for what I am saying. Now, if you want to find or enjoy any of our 230 something videos, to do that, all you need to do is to go to the left of your screen, that's below the video you are watching, and click on that blue icon that says CSEC Biology TCP. That will take you to the back end of my channel, and you'll be able to feast on over 200 videos along with several playlists. Also, to the bottom right of this video, there's a yellow button that says CSEC Biology TCP. If you were supposed to click on that button, you'd also be able to subscribe. At the end of my videos, you will see at least a minimum 2 videos coming up on screen. Click on any of those videos and you can continue to enjoy content from CSEC Biology TCP. Grab a friend, grab your pen, pencil, and let's go as we look at prescription drugs. Now, prescription drugs, as it suggests, are drugs that are prescribed by your doctor. So you're not feeling well, so you would have visited the doctor. Having visited the doctor, then the doctor would have done some checks and probably would have written a prescription. Now, this is usually to alter or cause changes to a bodily function, be that the function is somewhat off or it just causes you to feel ill. So using this prescription medication, which usually comes with directive, should help to correct whatever ill you're having. What is it that we treat with prescription drugs? Several things. The list might be so large that we can't name them all this evening. But we use prescription drugs to treat pain. We use prescription drugs to treat fungal infection. We also use prescription drugs to treat bacterial infection. And of course, if we are not sleeping well, we might very well have some prescription drugs to address that problem. This is in no way all the things that prescription drugs can treat. However, prescription drugs becomes a problem when they are abused. When we talk about abuse of drugs, we're talking about taking drugs in excess of the prescribed portion or using drugs in a manner that it is not prescribed. And that is the case for prescription drugs. But we could abuse any drugs. Any drugs can be abused. And when we abuse drugs, they are debilitating effects. Some problems that are associated with drugs would include harm to the body. Follow me through this lesson, and I will outline several other issues that are associated with abusing drugs. It is important to note that persons who are addicts, persons who are taking drugs, they usually take drugs because of depression, to overcome a problem, or to realize some goal that sometimes it's just in the head. There are some important words that we need to know. One such word is tolerance. Tolerance as it relates to drugs and drug abuse. This becomes your first activity of the day. Could you find on Google for me, or whatever search engine, what is tolerance, and have it posted in the chat? So we want to know what is tolerance. We have to ensure that you're a part of the lesson so that no one falls asleep. So today we are looking at drug abuse, and we're going to be looking at a whole slew of drugs. And of course, it is in keeping with the CXC CSEC Human and Social Biology syllabus and, of course, biology syllabus. A lot for us to learn this evening. We're also going to be adding to this lesson this evening some past paper questions, just to see how much or how well prepared you are. Stay with me as we travel this journey. So let me just say hi to individuals as we make our search for that word, tolerance. So Jones is here, good evening. Johnson, Jarul is here, good evening. Brettwaite is also here, good evening. Get me the 100 subscriber. That's a very interesting name. Good evening. First time on the show. Very happy to have you. Peter Gay Campbell is also here. Simpson Jawawan is always here. Welcome back. Khan is here. Jennifer Khan, haven't seen you in a while. Welcome back to the show. Rutan is also here. Good evening. And Macmillan, who is always with us. Good evening. Welcome to the show, and continue to be with us right up to CXC. We do hope that our influence will result in a whole lot of aid. Macmillan is the first out of the block. The capacity to endure, Macmillan. The capacity to endure continued subjection to something such as, sorry, Macmillan, that is not the answer that we're looking for. All right, that is not the answer that we're looking for. Howell. That's not, you see, I deliberately took this out for you to toy around with it. Because I know if you were supposed to go to the exam and you're seeing drug tolerance, your answer would be in keeping with what is on the screen. But that's not the answer. So let me share with you what the answer is. There anybody else who's going to try? Anybody else want to try? All right, not a problem. I won't cause you too much pain. So when we talk about tolerance as it relates to drugs, it is somewhat a little different. Drug tolerance is a condition that a person needs to take more or a greater dose of that drugs in order to get that same or that feel-good effect. So tolerance, the person needs to take more or a greater dose of that drugs in order to have that same or that feel-good effect. That's what we mean when we talk about drug tolerance. All right? We want to get that one in to ensure that the mistake is not made again. So drug tolerance, it speaks to that condition in which the addict takes more or a greater dose of that drugs in order to get that same effect or that feel good effect. All right, that's drug tolerance. Thank you very much, guys, for trying. When you try, be that your answer is right or wrong, it is helping someone. Don't be too shy if you had post something and it's not the answer that we're looking for. This is a place where empathy is the name of the game. So please don't go feeling shy. Continue to put up the content and allow us to correct the issues. We move away from drug tolerance and we're going to be looking at drug dependence. And there are two name types of dependence, as it were, for drug dependence. And it is not mother and father or son and daughter. So I'm going to ask you again, tell me in the chat, what's drug dependence? So when we talk about drug dependence, what does it mean? Drug dependence. All right, so as you search for drug dependence, just let me remind you that the CSEP broad topics, they are out. The SBA, I think, for most schools should be in by the 18th of June. So there's a little time for persons to make correction. I also suggest to those persons who are planning on differing that you do the labs and submit them. While the condition for the exam next year might be fixed, I don't know, labs could somewhat change. So you want to ensure that you're scoring that A for the lab before next year. All right, when your body can't do without it, dependence. Right, this one was sort of straightforward. I'm sorry, I won't say that because you'd say probably drug tolerance was the same thing. But that's a good answer, Gray, Otisha. Is it Otisha, I hope? All right, D'Souza, you're back. Hi, how you doing? Good evening. All right, so when we talk about drug dependence, all right, let me take what you have there. Drug dependence or physical dependence, and that is one type of dependence, refers to when a person requires one or more drug in order to function. Abruptly stopping the substance may cause physical symptoms of withdrawal. Jones, this is spot on with a little more information that we'd ask for, but it is also good information. Robinson, when you need one or more drugs to function. So now we understand that once we're talking about drug dependence, we are talking about an addiction. Now you're addicted. So if you're a biology student, as it were, for your case with respiration, where you're looking at the syllabus, a pretty popular question for you, what extract or the derivative from the cigarette would have caused addiction? And you will recall that is nicotine, as it were, for the cigarette. But drug dependence, like we started out saying, that it is pretty much addiction to a drug. The person taking the drug repeatedly and depend on that drug in order to function or for support. So they are of this view that they cannot function, and it might be more than just a view if we understand the concept of withdrawal syndromes or symptoms. All right? Now, if this person does not take the drug, the person will become extremely uncomfortable and some might say a little anxious. Now, there are two types of dependence. And on one of those biology HSB paper 2 that we would have published, you would have seen a question asking about classification of drugs and also the types of dependence. So the first type of dependence is going to be the psychological dependence. The first type of dependence on drugs is going to be the psychological dependence. And in this case, what happens is that the person is of the opinion that they must take the drug to survive. So the first type of dependence, as it were, for drugs, let us remember these two types, is a psychological dependence. And that is where you're saying, I have to do this. I have to go and get a drink. I have to drink this beverage because this beverage has caffeine and it helps. I have to have this sweet because it whatever, right? So it is the psychological dependency that usually comes first. Now, if the psychological dependence is not treated, what is likely to happen is that you move into the second phase of dependence where we have physical dependence. Now, what is physical dependence? In this case, the body metabolic system will change. The metabolic system of the body will change. What it means is that it's going to function a little different. The tissue, they will change the way in which they respond. Hence, when the drug is removed, there is withdrawal symptoms because of this physical dependency. Once you stop taking the drugs, what will happen is that you are going to have a whole slew of things happening to you. And if you stay with us, you will learn what these are as we go further into the lesson. So we have looked at some big words so far. We have looked at drug tolerance, we have looked at drug dependence, and we have also identified two types of dependence. The first type is that which deal with the brain. All right, the psychological dependence. And then there's that which causes change to the body, the physical dependence, right? And we did establish what they are. How drugs are administered. How drugs are administered. And I'm going to open the room now for you to tell me how drugs are administered. And I'm going to break away from the lesson and allow you to talk about drugs. And then we are going to get back into drugs classification. All right? So the person becomes dependent on the drug. And once we are dependent on it, then it means that we are now an addict orally. So we take these drugs inside or through the mouth, that's oral. Injection, right? I'm not too sure if it's intramuscular or subcutaneous, but we do take injection with a syringe. And at time, this causes hepatitis. It is considered that the injection could be responsible for AIDS among moving among addicts. All right? Administered through injection and inhalation. All right, so there are persons who will sniff the drugs and it goes through the nostril. Those are three wonderful points. Continue. Is there any other you can think of? Intravenous. All right, Macmillan is saying that it is intravenous. That's all the, oh yes, it is intravenous because they need a direct boost. Boom. So it's intravenous. It's not intramuscular. That's true. All right. Subcutaneous. All right. So it is intravenous or subcutaneous. Subcutaneous is under the skin. Intravenous is into the vein. For those persons who are not savvy like Macmillan and Amoy. Hey, Amoy, big up yourself. I didn't see you in my last live. All right. So we have that taken care of there, but I'm still waiting on one other way that we could take drugs. We said orally, that's through the mouth. Any other? It could also be applied to the skin, right? There are times when you want to really get in an area or reduce the sensitivity in the particular area, and you would apply it by rubbing it onto the skin. All right, buccal cavity, that's the mouth. oral. It's always once buccal cavity, it's going to be the mouth. Buccal cavity is the mouth. Topical, I think topical is on the skin. Amar, you can tell me, you are the medical person here. All right. Intramuscular, I'm not too sure if I'm not too sure if drugs. Well, if you talk about drugs, and we're not only now talking about drugs that are abused. Doctors do give us injection in the muscle, so we have intramuscular. So intramuscular is in the muscle, intravenous is in the vein, subcutaneous is under the skin. Yeah, that I can tell you from my little vet side. All right, good. And there's also rectal, where they place it up the, where, and that I think they do that most time when you have constipation, that type of thing. All right, so Jones is saying yes, topical is on the skin. You see, I love this class because I continue to learn from you guys. Wonderful. Now, there is something we spoke about today, and I want to, yes, I was at the last class. I didn't see you. I'm very sorry. All right, so we want to look at one little thing before we up on into something else I want to ask you. I want to talk just a little bit about the effect of drugs and alcohol. I want to talk a little bit about the effect of drugs and alcohol. Now, if you are taking drugs, and I'm not only talking about heroin and all of those hard drugs, I'm talking about medication. But if you are taking drugs, it is not a good idea to consume alcohol with the drugs. When you do this, the portion, I think when I did toxicology, now you have the additive effect, right? So what will happen is that the drug will become more potent and it could cause death. Now, many persons are going to these parties. I was listening to one of those what we call social media sensation, and I reckon that somebody was talking about drinking one of those stout with Fenzik when they were going to Masha work. You know what Masha work is in Jamaica. Now, the stout is an alcoholic beverage, and the tablet that was named, that is of course a drugs. Now, you have to be careful because these two together could cause your life. There are persons who are going to parties, and while you go to the party, you are using ecstasy and all other type of drugs with alcohol. And there are several cases we all can name where somebody went to a party and did not return home. There is a drug called date or date. Is it date? Can anybody tell me what is date? The drug called date? I am not going to be teaching about drugs and not touch things like these. Date, am I? What's this date thing? Might not be on your syllabus, but I have to cover it as a teacher. It is our responsibility that you know to put you in the know. Anybody know date? A drug called date? Want to tell me in the chat? What's date? What is it used for? Wow. I'm not a party addict, so I really don't know those. All right. Macmillan has it here. YouTube plug it, but I'm going to send it through. We are not in any way promoting this act. This is to protect persons while we are making you aware of this particular drug. We are in no way promoting the use of these drugs. So I'm going to release it. It is called date, and it is also named as the rape drugs. All right, date. It's called the rape drugs. I cannot, as a teacher, teach you, my ladies, about drugs and not talk about date. Now, we are not going to be going into date as to what it does, But what I want for you to do, those persons who are seeing it for the first time, to write it down and go and check it. It is a dangerous drug and it is used against women. Everybody knows what rape is. So if somebody can use a drug, I think the last time I saw some content on it, somebody correct me in the chat. I think the last time I saw some content on date, I stand corrected. This might not be the most accurate thing. That if that drug was supposed to be administered to you, you would still be pretty much awake, but your brain would be fast asleep. Meaning that whatever happens, you would not remember. You can correct me in the chat. It's been long time I heard about that, but I'm definitely not going to be teaching without exposing you to this content. So date is also a drug that is used against women, and all my girls, all my ladies should know about that. I need to also remind you that you should not take any open drinks, unless you are serving it from the fountain from anyone. You were warned by Mr. Wilson and Mr. Wilson Live. All right, we continue the journey looking at drugs and we want to look at classification. Now, one of those papers that I sent out, drug classification was on the paper. So, of course, but Sir Jesus, forgive me, I am a Jamaican, so I am going to break away right into the Creole every now and then. If you don't understand, I will help you. I'm going to just say something to my administrative assistant. Miss White, yeah. Were you aware that ash from a cigarette can do the same in a beer? Yeah. You knew that? Yeah. So why wasn't I told? What is it that it can do? You won't be asleep for anything. Amma, did you know that? Holy moly, I didn't know. I'm sorry. You lose consciousness. You lose consciousness. So you see, you don't need Gray. I'm most grateful. Let me see what Amma is saying here. It's just any drugs that make it easier for someone to rape another. No, Amma, these particular drugs that I'm talking about, the date drugs, it operates pretty much as Gray would have said. All right, so ladies, I want you to be aware that is what this forum is for. This is not just a robot class where we just talk. All right, Gray, lol. See me know things. What you know, Gray? I don't want to hear what you know, Gray. I don't want what you know. Call your mother. Let me talk to your mother. All right, am I? No. Am I? Tell me what you're saying. I don't understand. Go again with that. Yes, it is true. I didn't know either. All right. So see, Robinson is as dumb as Mr. Wilson. I was not aware either. Jones, I see we're learning something. Yes, I knew it happened to someone I went to school with. Oh my, for you I am praying. All right. So yeah, that is what this is for. I did not know that, and I must share that. All right, I must share that. And let me just pause to say this bit before I move on. Remember what a lot of these drugs do. They interfere with the transmission of nervous signals. All right. And when we look at alcohol, it might be the good place to look at that. About the cigarette ash. Oh, was that a no or was that a no with that exclamation? You're frightened. You didn't know. All right. We're having grand time here and we're coming up to the section where we're going to be looking at some past paper questions. I'm going to be firing the questions as much as possible. and then you are going to be giving me the answer there. Now, feel free to just give an answer. Try your best to make it correct. But if it is not correct, don't be shy. Don't be shy. What really counts is when you get back that CXC result. So we are here to practice together and to learn from each other. I didn't know. Okay, great. So we want to look at the classification of drugs, and there is a letter classification for drugs like A, B, C, D. Anybody can find that on Google and post it here for me. The letter classification for drugs, as it drugs that are drug A, drugs that are drug B. For example, a drug A would be like heroin, and they are the most dangerous. This class of drugs, they are the most dangerous. But what I want to do, though I made mention of that, what I want to do is to look at what is in the syllabus. So for your transcript, just let me treat with that now. Classification of drugs. Drugs may be classified as narcotics, right? Example of narcotic would be like heroin. Drugs may also be classified as stimulants. Examples of stimulant include cocaine, amphetamines, caffeine. Drug may also be classified as sedatives. Example of sedative would be like your tranquilizer, your painkiller, etc. Drugs may also be classified as hallucinogen, right? And these include like the ganja, the cannabis, the LSD, or the same thing we call LSD, we call it acid as well. And then you know the party drug, ecstasy, right? Then there's also the performance enhancing drugs, the steroids. Those are the ones that when you are in sports, in most cases, you are taking these drugs. Now, I would have listed some drugs, as it were, 5 classification of drugs. We're going to be looking at probably about 2. And if we can, in the other class, we will look at the others or give you some videos. But if we don't, we ask that you do the reading on your own so we can talk more about them as we move along. We're going to be working a lot of past papers as much as we can, sharing here with you. So you have to help us to help you. All right, good. So I'll go with the classification of drugs again and the examples. So narcotics include heroin. Stimulants include cocaine, amphetamines, caffeine. Sedatives include tranquilizer, painkiller. Hallucinogen include ganja, same thing we call cannabis. LSD, the same thing we call acid. And the party drug ecstasy, and also performance enhancing drugs like our steroids. So I did also tell you that drugs can also be classified as with letters A, B, C, that type of a thing. The question to be asked is pretty much, what is a narcotic? Now, a narcotic is a drug or substance that pretty much alters or affect the behavior and or that affects the behavior, and they are not used for medical purposes. All right. Now, the definitions that you are going to have for narcotics, you have to make sure that the one that you're finding is one that is related to drugs, right? I know there's medicine and so on, but we're talking now about hard drugs if we're looking at narcotics, as it were. All right, so we looked at some classification there. We want to just look now at narcotic drugs. And one what we're looking at is what we refer to as opiates. Opiates, and this would include like our heroin and our morphines. All right, now I'm going to be telling a story or a slow storyline about drugs. It's not a story with anything abstract in it. I'm just going to be going slowly through heroin, its effect, how it's made, and of course, the we said effect already. So heroin is found in the pods, or one might say the seed pod of the opium poppy plant. Of the opium poppy plant. That in itself tells us that you can find this opium naturally, and it is from this opium that later you're going to realize that we would have gotten heroin. So opium occurs naturally. Now the truth is, like marijuana, in some regions, opium is smoked for that feel-good effect. Now, it is the same opium that is refined to make morphine. Now, morphine has medicinal purposes or medicinal value. As morphine, they are used as painkiller. Morphine is used as painkiller. Now, heroin is made from a combination of morphine and acetic acid. Heroin is made from a combination of morphine and acetic acid. So let us look at that chain again. We're getting the opium from the seed, from the pod, the seed pod of the opium poppy plant. Now, some persons are smoking this for a feel-good effect, but we could also refine it in order to make morphine, process it, morphine. Now, we could go a little further with this product with some more processing and add to it acetic acid to make a more potent compound called heroin. Now, this heroin, what I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it good, because there are some words Mr. Wilson can't say. All right. So this heroin, it is way more potent, way more dangerous, stronger than morphine, and it is more addictive than morphine. So you get some heroin, feel good effect. The next time around, get some more. But then as you continue to take this heroin, what tend to happen is just say you want this feel good. You know the drug tolerance thing we spoke about? Always remember about that. Tolerance set in. What tolerance says, you need to take some more in order to get that effect. Hey guy, you're not tolerant, man. You need to get some more to feel good. And then as you take a little more to feel good, then something else steps in. What steps in? Tell me what steps in after tolerance. Tell me in the chat there. Let me see if you're following. What's going to step in after tolerance? So tolerance is saying get some more, a higher dose, a higher volume. And after that steps in, and you would have satisfied this tolerance, what will come next? Tell me in the chat, guys. Dependence. There we go. Hey, some persons lick it out of the out. It's like West Indies playing. Like West Indies playing, the ball is out of the park. Dependence. Psychological dependence. Some person not even like break it down. They must say, hey, full marks for this. First thing I got happen, psychological dependence. So indeed, after we have the tolerance, then dependence is going to set in. And the type of dependence is going to be psychological in your brain. I need to have some more. And then after that, we are going to have what other dependence? Tell me. All right, tell me the type of dependence. As you type the type of dependence, let's continue with our journey with heroin. Now, heroin having been made, it is usually snort, or it is usually sniffing. It's usually by sniffing through the nostril that it is taken. Now, the thing about this, while you're doing this, it tends to damage the nostril. And it could cause, yes, physical is right, and it could cause damage to the septum. So the septum, the part that divides the nose to two nostrils, this part here is called the septum. I remember the septum is also found in the heart. All right, great. Now, with the damage, or with the demand, sorry, for a higher stimulation. So now you having sniffed it, tolerance step in, dependence step in. Now there is a demand for a higher stimulation. I want to go higher. So there's a demand for a higher stimulation. And as a result, what will happen is that now we have to get this into the vein. So now we are going to use injection. So the addict is now using the needle. But the truth is, because of tolerance, it is going to be a very expensive practice to maintain, because it's like it's having this multiplying effect. You needed just this amount, then you need 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 this amount, and then you follow what's happening, and then you cannot pay this bill. So what is likely to happen? You know what is going to happen? Yeah, resort to stealing, bankruptcy, selling your property, selling what you have, and then you know what happens. The social ill and downhill journey for you and your family. Now, the problem with using the needle is that it usually is unsterilized and it causes diseases such as hepatitis, and it could also cause some blood poisoning. I said earlier, as the needle is moved from one person to another, the chances of spreading AIDS become greater. Curran Springer has a live. Curran Springer has a live just popped up on my screen here. I don't know if anybody here is Curran student, but he's having a live shortly. All right, great. So we continue. Now, we spoke about AIDS, that there's a possibility that persons might catch AIDS as a result of using the needle. But heroin, like we said, after tolerance, it will lead you to have a dependence. What are some of the effects of taking heroin? The first thing is the dependency. I can't survive without it. The withdrawal symptoms. I can't survive without it. When you take this heroin because you can't survive without it, it releases tension. Hi, Grenadian. Edgar, welcome to the show. It releases this tension, this thing that you couldn't live without it. So you get some more and it starts to release the tension. But taking heroin, it causes anxiety. And if you're anxious, then you understand that naturally the body temperature will raise, naturally you start sweating and that type of a thing. Now, it is also, interestingly, going to cause the pupil to become smaller. The pupil eye becomes smaller. There is no desire for food. Oh, all I need, I don't need, I'm not hungry. No, I'm not hungry. Just give me the money. When I'm hungry, I'll get something. You know what they want the money to do? To get some more drugs. I'm not hungry now. I don't want what you cook. Just give me the money. You know I wanted something on the road. And then you give them the money and know you are financing an addict. They wanted to go and buy a job. And interestingly, if it is your husband, you are going to have problem in the bedroom, because nothing that you have in the bedroom is going to have interest in. You won't have interest in anything at all in the bedroom. So if you provoke him about what you have in the bedroom, you know this could be a violent encounter. All right? So these are some things you need to pay attention to. These are not the only effects. If the heroin is taken away, we keep saying it, you are going to have withdrawal symptoms. Your stomach, you're going to have some stomach problem. You're going to have some muscle pain, hallucination. Things are just, only you alone can see them and understand them. The world is dumb to what is happening. Dumb to what is happening. You are going to have convulsion. All right? Then you are going to have goose pimple, the skin tend to show these cold bumps, what they tend to call cold turkey, because it's withdrawal thing. You know, you have these cold bumps and they call it cold turkey. So you have the cold turkey effect. We spoke about the sweating. And of course, the eyes will have discharge running from the eye, running from the nostril and all of that. Because now you are no longer, well, that will always be there. The psychological dependence is always be there, will always be there. But what is happening now is the physical dependence. And that is why the tissue in the body then now start functioning differently. Come on, why are you having cold bumps? Come on, why are you having runny nose and runny eyes? These are some of the signs of withdrawal, as it were, for heroin. Persons will become ill if you are taking the drugs, they are ill. But with the withdrawal symptoms, it is sort of greater after removing the drugs. They, in turn, will go for a higher dosage tolerance effect. They will go for a higher dosage in order to satisfy this crave or to reduce the level of anxiety. There's, of course, going to be damage of organs and malfunction of processes in the body. Whole lot of problem you're going to be having. How is this problem treated though? Now, usually if you are suffering from drugs, there are some addiction hotline, some clinics that you can attend. And when you attend these clinics, they are not just going to take away the drugs from you and run you away. Go away, you have no sense, you shouldn't be taking the drugs. They are not going to do that. They are going to give you not a drugs or a similar drugs, like methadone. They are going to give you drugs like methadone, which is a weaker version, or a weaker, I don't even know if I should say strain or a weaker version of a medication that will help to wean you or to slowly take you off the heroin so that you can function. Of course, you are going to go through a rehabilitation process. And through that process, a lot of things will happen. But for you to see change, you have to play a role in the change. Now, that was Anna. I'm very sorry. Hi, Anna. All right. So we looked just now at a narcotic drugs, that was heroin. We want to just look at a peek at sedatives. And remember, sedatives, painkiller, tranquilizer, those are sedative. And of course, sleeping pills. All right. So drugs can be treated with drugs. Yeah, drugs can be treated with drugs. I like that one, great. Yeah, drugs can be treated with drugs, and that's what they do. Can you imagine if you had this person and you just pull them off, what would happen? The withdrawal symptom is a real thing, you know. It's not like they're hallucinating. No, it's a real thing. All right. So you want to ensure that they are still human, you know. They might be ill, but we still have to remember that they belong to somebody. They belong to Earth. They belong to the food web for which we share. So we have to treat them with some kindness, some love, some sympathy, and of course, empathy, and ensure that we try to get them back all sane and well. Because no, a very few persons just go experimentally and take drugs and become addictive. Persons are taking drugs because they are having a problem. They're having a problem. They're having a bank loan. They're having that can't be settled, a bad debt. They're having a relationship issue. They're having issues at home. They're having issues at work. They just can't satisfy with themselves. I am not handsome enough. I am not beautiful enough. Nobody is calling to me. There we go. Drug addicts do commit suicide sometimes. Campbell is saying, yeah, it happens every now and then. Sometimes persons can't deal with the fame, so they are taking drugs. Sometimes persons are taking drugs just to perform more than they should. All right. we have heard of several entertainers who would have met their demise as a result of a drug overdose. Now, sedative, they slow down the body's action or how the body function, and they give a sense of calm. They give a sense of calm. So if you know persons with mental illness, and they'll tell you that when they get this injection, it tend to slow them up. So it give them this sense of calm. Now, with sedative, just like the narcotics, there's dependence. Dependence occurs as well. With sedative, there's a tolerance effect as well, where you need more and more and more. The health issues are so many. All right, as we go through drugs, we are going to look at them. Now, to some examples of real sedative, most persons know about Valium. You know about Valium? Anybody know that? Nebutal. Anybody know those? All right. Example, tranquilizer and zoo animals. So they use the tranquilizer. That's a good one. You are going into the lion cage and you want to make sure that you are not eaten. You are not eaten by the lion. I do hope that this is not one of those circus lions that will just play dead on you or act as if it's sleeping. And then when you get inside that cage, you know what will happen? Oh, you give me a sedative? Okay, fine. I am going to give you a sedative now because you're going to be my meal. I do hope that's not something that the lion will play dead on us. And the concentration, that's where it takes us. We have to make sure that the concentration is right. All right? We have to make sure that the concentration is right. All right? Great. Now, another thing that we could look at, so we look at two groups. We barely look at sedative. We covered narcotics. We looked a little bit at sedative, and we want to look now at stimulant. All right, there's a Jamaican who has a song about that. And stimulant, they would include things like cocaine, caffeine, amphetamines. All right, those are some of our stimulants. And what they do, they raise the level of nervous activity in the body. All right, they raise the level of nerve activity in the body. Please do some more reading on that for me. And then there is the hallucinogen. They allow you to hallucinate. So your perception of life and things are warped. They alter your perception. They alter your thought or your thoughts. They affect the way you feel. And they can cause a sense. They can cause things to seem real that are not. Example of these would include your LSD, same thing we call acid, or your party drugs that we call ecstasy. All right? So you really don't want to go experimenting with drugs. Having covered the content here on drugs, there's much more for us to cover on drugs. And we're going to be picking up this as we move further into the lesson. I am hoping that we'll be able to cover the syllabus in another 4 weeks. So after we would have completed drugs, we're going to be looking at STI, because drugs must be on your exam. Hygiene must be on the exam. STI must be on the exam. Pollution will be on the exam. And sewage treatment will be on the exam. So we have to cover those. Now, the last group of drugs for us to look at is the performance enhancing drugs, steroids. So we would have known about this, even if you didn't know about any other drugs. If you're an avid sports fan, or you're somebody who love athletics, or if you're from Jamaica and you know about Merlin Otis' exploit, losing out on so many gold medals, then you'd understand that performing enhancing drug, it is pretty much, you take it as a criminal act, and it could cost you time, it could cost you your career, it could cost a whole lot of stuff. All right, so we have looked at drugs. There are some things that I want you to look at. should there not be enough time to look at it? I want you to look at performance enhancing drugs. I want you to look at hallucinogens. I want you to look at stimulants, and I want you to look at sedatives. All right, so these are things that we need to treat with. All right, so a lot that we covered today. We looked at drugs. Can anybody tell me in the chat what's a drugs? And then we looked at dependence and tolerance. And then we looked at the types of dependence. And then because you are bright, I really am not going to just give you a little bit of work to do. So I'm just going to be giving you the wrap for this class. We're 1 hour in the class. We're going to be looking at some past paper. But just let's wrap this lesson nicely before we go. All right, so I want to know what's a drugs. When we talk about drugs, what it is. I'm having a belly ache, and I got myself, somebody told me about some leaf. Pick 3 leaf off the source of tree and some leaf from the cerasy bush and boil it, and that will treat with your belly. And I got that, I drank it, and my belly is all fine now. Would that be a drugs? Would that be a drugs? Don't fall asleep on me now. You weren't paying attention to the salient point of the lesson? Drugs. Drugs, any substance taken into the body that influences chemical reaction in the body or influences the functioning or the normal function of the body. Yes, Amoy, it would be a drugs. Just like heroin, heroin is from a plant. Ganja is a plant. Cannabis, as it is called, is a plant. So yes, it would be a drugs. Yes, it would be a drugs. Yes, it would be a drugs. And I was deliberate in asking that question. All right, so let us move on to another question. What's your understanding of tolerance? Tolerance. What's your understanding of tolerance? As it were for drugs, drug tolerance. Drug tolerance. What's drug tolerance? Can anybody tell me that? Chemical substance that can change how the body and mind work. That is correct. All right, so that's a good one. So after we would have looked at what is a drugs, we want to look at tolerance. What's tolerance? We want to make sure that we have these today. Tolerant doesn't mean that you can take a lot more or you have a carrying capacity for the drugs. That is not what it means. We did establish that in the lesson. All right, so the faster you come, the faster we go. So I'm going to be looking at some past papers. I will not name the year of the past paper. I'll just give you the questions, and I expect you to get better as you go along. What that means is that I could give you some question today, and I could give you the same questions on Sunday, or I could give you the same question next week, Wednesday. You are expected to get better as the days go by. All right, that drug is a chemical which alters the way the body works. Nobody don't remember what is tolerance? All right. As you look for tolerance, I will pop my first question and I'll be reading, so it is required that you listen and listen well. The first question of the evening goes to the first part of the syllabus for both biology and HSB. The diagram refers to the following food chain, which shows the feeding relationship in a freshwater habitat. The food chain is as follows. Microscopic algae, mosquito larvae, small fish, large fish. This is the question. The organism to which the least amount of energy is available is the A, microscopic algae, B, mosquito larvae, C, small fish, D, large fish? You have one chance to answer, so you have to listen well. Type in the chat the letter for your answer. Is it A, B, C, or D? Let us be consistent with what we're doing. I'll start to like that sometime. All right, so I received the, it received the list. Oh, you answered before? Let me see, Tanisha saying something there. All right, so just let me go up. It would be nice if you use the letters that everybody could follow or everybody can. Oh, okay, good. So large fish. Not too sure what Gray is saying there. Large fish, large fish, large fish, large fish, large fish. The 10% rule. Yes, large fish, large fish. All right, the energy level decreases. All right, all right. So I never hear. Very good. So you have to pay attention. You have to be alert. Those persons who will hear well are those persons who are more prepared. Yeah. All right. So great. Your answer there was D. And the rule that governs this is that as you move from producer to quaternary consumer, the energy is said to release by about 10% for successive trophic level. Be reminded that each organism in a food chain represents a trophic level. So that was good. Probably just 2% got it wrong or didn't get the right answer there, but that was great. Let's look at question number 1. You would have to listen carefully to answer well. And this question, again, is from the front of your syllabus. And it says a plant which has reduced leaves with no chlorophyll, lacks a proper root system, and flowers abundantly is most likely to be found A, in a habitat where water is scarce, B, living parasitically on another plant, C, growing in an area where there are few insects, D, existing as a commensal with other green plants. What is your answer for this question? Where do we start? So Jones is out of the block. Jones is saying that it is B. Any other answer? All right, so while you roll in, I prepare the other question. Any other answer? It's a parasitic plant. All right, so 2% answer, but we want to put in a lot of work, so you have to go very quickly. So yes, it's going to be B, a parasitic plant, and this is something that will be tested on your paper 2 for both biology and HSB. The question that I'm going to give you now might not appear on your paper 2, but something of its sort will be on paper 1. Please listen carefully. Which of the following organelles is the site of aerobic respiration? Is it the nucleus? Is it the cytoplasm? Is it the chloroplast? Or would it be the mitochondrion in the order A to D? Mitochondria. Persons can't remember the letter. So persons are saying mitochondria. Why not the cytoplasm? D. All right, D is the mitochondria, D is the mitochondria. But these students are ready for exams. The question is, why not the cytoplasm? Everybody is saying the mitochondria. I am asking you, why not the cytoplasm? These guys are ready for exam. It is anaerobic respiration that takes place in the cytoplasm. Wonderful. All right, so let's hop on into more questions. Those persons who have not answered the question as yet, don't be afraid. Your question will come, and I think it might be coming up just now. This question comes from your multiple choice paper to be, and it reads, a mature plant cell is different from a mature animal cell because the plant cell has A, mitochondria, B, cell membrane, C, large permanent vacuole, D, a nucleus suspended in the cytoplasm. You are watching Mr. Wilson Live, and we're kicking off the marathon this evening with just a few questions, and things will heat up as we go along. Tanisha is out of the block. Large vacuole. Jones, large vacuole. Success, C, large vacuole. Large vacuole. So I'm seeing large vacuole and a number of C, which is pretty much large vacuole. So our answer here is going to be large vacuole. Now, this is a repeated question. The one I'm going to ask now, it has been, I've seen it on several past papers. Item 3 refers to the following list. I, number of legs. Are 2, body temperature. 3, shape of body. 4, type of body covering. The question, the dead remains of a previously unknown animal are found in a forest. Which of the features listed above could be used to classify the animal? Will it be A, number of legs and body temperature? Or will it be B, shape of body and type of body covering? Will it be C, number of legs, shape of body, type of body covering? Or will it be D, body temperature, shape of body, and type of body covering? Which will be your answer? That one missed you? Your answer is C. Miss White, are they really this good? So let me check to see if you have these questions as well. This question is from the front of your syllabus. The answer there was C. The answer there was C. You are not able to get the body temperature. So your answer for the question we asked just now would have been C. All right? And that's a number of stuff. So now I have a new paper. Which of the following organisms occupy the 4th trophic level in the food chain below? The organisms are cabbage, caterpillar, small bird, hawk. The responses: A, hawk, B, cabbage, C, small bird, and D, caterpillar. What's your answer for this question? You're watching Mr. Wilson live from CSEC Biology TCP, and we would have started sometime early, about 5 thereabout, our exam preparation. We're looking at some past paper, and earlier we did cover drugs and drug abuse. With more to be covered on drugs, you'll be seeing that come Sunday. But join us on a Friday, Sunday, and of course Wednesday at 5:05 p.m. for live classes streaming from Kingston, Jamaica. Indeed, your answer for that question is going to be hark. Let me explain that, being that somebody got it wrong. Each organism in a food chain represents a trophic level. So the fourth organism in this food chain would have been the ark, making the ark the fourth trophic level. I think you're doing well. So I'm going to be flipping all over the place to get you some questions, as it seems as if I really have to put some pressure on you this evening to see if you really have it the way you say you do. All right. So we're going to be moving now into the nitrogen cycle. I think the nitrogen cycle is more for the HSB student, but the nitrogen cycle appeared on biology paper. I think it's more the carbon cycle. Whoa, 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 whoa. And I come here. Come here. Mind you hurt yourself, baby. Come. All right. So for those persons who were asking, about what is decomposer and as it relates to the broad topic, if you are going to be talking about the carbon cycle or the nitrogen cycle, decomposer would fit nicely into these topics. Your question: which of the following types of bacteria is important for returning nitrogen gas to the atmosphere? A, nitrifying, B, denitrifying, C, putrefying, D, nitrogen fixing. Tanisha is out of the block. So I'm seeing denitrifying bacteria and I'm seeing B. So denitrifying bacteria and B, they are pretty much the same thing. So I'm waiting on you to respond. Don't want to leave anybody behind. Want to take as many responses as possible. No, Audrey, we have to go back to the drawing board with that. So, Audrey, we're going to need to do some work with the nitrogen cycle. All right? Another question for you. And this is, of course, related to life processes. In a comparison between osmosis and diffusion, which of the following statements is not true? Now, please underline when you get to the exam the word not, word most. Make sure you underline these. Responses are: A, osmosis occurs only in living cells. B, both processes require energy to move particles across a concentration gradient. C, diffusion does not always require a partially permeable membrane. D, with both processes, molecules move from a high concentration to an area of lower concentration. What will be your answer? Hi, Gav. All right. So let me see what's happening there. Persons are saying C. All right. So I will repeat the question. The answers, some of the answers that I'm seeing, it suggests that we would have ignored the not in this question. I'll read this question again for that reason. In a comparison between osmosis and diffusion, which of the following statement is not true? A, osmosis occurs only in living cells. Both process requires energy to move particles across a concentration gradient. C, diffusion does not always refer to a does not always require a particular permeable membrane, a partially permeable membrane. I'm sorry, guys. Let me read it again. C, diffusion does not always require a partially permeable membrane. D, with both process, molecules move from high concentration to an area of lower concentration. Can you turn on your phone for me, please? Can you turn it on for me? So we're seeing a lot of answers. Okay. So we are seeing so many answers, then we have to pause to sort it out. So here we go. Your answer is going to be the energy, as Tanisha is pointing out. So both processes require energy to move particles across a concentration gradient. Osmosis and diffusion, they do not require energy from the cell. That is something that is reserved for active transport. As it were, for osmosis and diffusion, they rely on a concentration gradient in order to move. Very well. So our answer here would have been B. All right. A lot of persons are doing well. Now, we would have seen the broad topic and nobody saw labs on the list of things that came. But of course, the labs are a part of the topics. So now we're going to be looking at labs, as it were, the multiple choice, and the labs that I'll be looking at is pertinent to both biology and HSB. Let's go. The item refers to the following diagram, which represents a metabolic process carried out in plant. I'll tell you what I'm seeing, and based on how much you know about this process, you'll be able to answer. So there, the diagram shows light, water, and carbon dioxide entering. It also says that it is entering the plant cell. Inside of a cell, we're seeing chlorophyll in the chloroplast. And leaving the cell, we are seeing oxygen and food. Our question, the food produced is A, fat, B, starch, C, protein, D, amino acid. What is our answer? And we are looking at some CSEC past paper questions. I will not be naming. Sorry for, you know that I'm pretty close to the road. I'm not going to be naming the year of the paper that I'll be doing. And I want persons to continue answering the question. I like when you can name, identify the answer. I like the letter for simplicity now, but if you can identify the answer by name, that is better with working with past paper rather than the letter. Because what most persons do, okay, I've seen this question before, the answer is D, but actually they had switched the answers, or the answers were shuffled, and then you got it all wrong. So make sure that you know what is the answer. As persons are saying starch, that type of thing, I know that some of the responses are really long, but like the short ones, make sure you know what the response should have been. So yes, our answer here is starch. I think starch is B and not D. B as in boy and not D. D is going to be amino acid, and you would have known that amino acid is the smallest part of course, protein. So it's going to be D. All right, so that there was an experiment, photosynthesis. We're going to be looking at another experiment. Listen carefully. The item refers to the following experiment. A green and white variegated leaf is exposed to sunlight for 3 hours and then tested for starch. The result of the test are shown in the diagram below. Now, if we have a green and white leaf, it is what we refer to as a variegated leaf. Wherever there's a variegated leaf, the test is pretty much in line. Oh, I don't want to tell you the answer yet. So this is our question. Based on the experiment, which of the following condition is necessary for photosynthesis? Remember, we're looking at variegated leaf, so that's a giveaway. Light, water, chlorophyll, and carbon dioxide. So light A, B water, C chlorophyll, and D carbon dioxide. What is your answer? No, this is not the one with the file over it. No, this is not the one with the file over it. I'm happy. Tanisha, you need to go and watch my labs. We have a lot of animation on the channel. No. And I see a lot of light coming in. Light is not the answer. And I'm happy that the light came in. You know, I'm happy why the light came in, because probably that is the lab that you have been practicing. But there are many other labs. All right, so I'm going to come back to that. So let me treat with this lab again. Being that so many persons got it wrong, I'm going to be explaining the lab. So let me go back. I even moved from that paper to another paper. I'm going to read again. Item 10 refers to the following experiment. A green and white variegated leaf is exposed to sunlight for 3 hours and then tested for starch. The result of the test are shown in the diagram below. So let me tell you. Before the experiment, there was a green color on the leaf and a white area. After the experiment, the green area changed to blue-black and the white area took the color of the iodine. Based on the experiment, which of the following condition is necessary for photosynthesis? A, light, B, water, C, chlorophyll, D, carbon dioxide. You have another chance. See if you can get it right this time. All right, so our answer is going to be chlorophyll, and it's going to be C. Now, one of the things we need to know is that when you see a variegated leaf being tested, as it were, on the syllabus, in most cases, it is in line with chlorophyll. The fact that the observation is showing that after the experiment, the green area returned a blue-black, which is a positive test for starch, and the white area took the color of the iodine, it strongly suggests here that chlorophyll can be the only answer. But that paper, I am going to give you the exact question that came on the paper that was the year before this particular paper. Listen to the question that came the year before, the exact lab. I'm going to show you how CXC tend to change things. So on the paper that I read first, the question was question number 10. On the paper that I am reading now, the question is question number 11. Item 11 refers to the following experiment. A green and white variegated leaf is exposed to sunlight for 3 hours and then tested for starch. The result of the test are shown in the following diagram. Before the test, there was a green area on the leaf and a white area. After the test, the green area became blue-black, while the white area took the color of the iodine. Based on the experiment, which of the following factors are necessary for photosynthesis? Listen to the answers. A, chlorophyll and oxygen. B, light and carbon dioxide. C, light and chlorophyll. D, chlorophyll and carbon dioxide. This is the exact question. The only thing that would have changed are the responses. What is your answer? What's your answer? All right, somebody said C. Let me tell you what C is. Light and chlorophyll. And might I also say that CXC made an error here? Because for that question, let me tell you exactly what is there for C. Light and chlorophyll. So what is your answer? Light and chlorophyll. Indeed, light and chlorophyll is going to be your answer. So this is a case where I would have shown you back-to-back paper where the exact question would have been repeated. The only change to this particular question was, of course, the responses. Let's go to another question. We are a little bit over the half an hour that I plan to use with you for these. I'm going to go to something that is really, really significant. I want you to look at this particular question, as many persons will be bold by it. All right, just give me a few, all right? All right, I'll be back. All right, just give me a few, cool. All right, 10. The following chemical equation is incomplete for photosynthesis, and this is for both biology student and HSB. Now, this is the equation that is incomplete. X plus 6H2O to C6H12O6 plus Y. Which of the combination below would accurately complete the equation? Now we have X and we have Y. So let me start. A, 6O2, 6CO2. B, 6CO2, 6O2. C, O2, CO2. D, CO2, O2. What is your answer there for X and Y? What's your answer there for X and Y? So I'll repeat. We started out with an equation that says X plus H2O, 6H2O. So X plus 6H2O to C6H12O6 plus Y. Now we want to find out what is X and we want to find out what is Y, right? So I gave you two columns. The first column is X, the second column is Y. Now we go with the responses. A, 6O2, 6CO2. B, 6CO2, 6O2. C, O2, CO2. D, CO2, O2. What is your answer there? Can't remember it like that. All right, not a problem. We'll get it as we go along. Or the replay. All right, so let me look at what is there. Some persons are saying B. Indeed, B is going to be the answer. Remember that equation for photosynthesis is going to be 6CO2 plus 6H2O, sunlight, chlorophyll, glucose, and then we are going to have, of course, 6 oxygen being given off. The takeaway from this equation is that once you're writing the equation like this and it is not the worded equation, you must balance the equation. This is going to take us to the end of the evening. For now, you would have heard my phone banging, so I would have given you all the time that I can give for this evening. We did 1 hour and 36 minutes. We're hoping that we'll be able to do another half an hour or more come the next class, given how fast we move through the content. Thanks much for joining this evening. Please be reminded to like, share, and of course, subscribe. We would have started the marathon. We did a couple of questions today, but I'm definitely going to be giving you, I'm going to be all over the place with the question, because what I want you to do is to understand a set of questions, and then I move on to another set of questions. So if you observe today, I was around photosynthesis, cells, biotic and abiotic factors. We looked at that exclusively this evening, and we're going to look at some more of that, but then we're going to be moving into the other topic of the syllabus as we are looking at the multiple choice paper. So again, thanks much for stopping by. It was indeed my pleasure sharing with you. I wish for you all the best for the exam. I would have left some content, some videos in your chat on genetics and lab. Please go there and look at them. I'm asking all students, I suggest that all students, be that you are doing paper 032, you are doing biology, or you are doing HSB, go on over and watch my labs. If you are doing HSB, you need to watch all the food test labs, which include reducing sugar, non-reducing sugar, emulsion tests, grease spot tests, test for protein, test for starch. Did I miss any? Test for lipid. Yes, that's it. And I also suggest that you watch the experiments for photosynthesis, as it were, with the emulsion, with the emission of oxygen, test for starch, to determine whether light is needed for photosynthesis, or to determine whether chlorophyll is important for photosynthesis. I also encourage you to watch my videos on diffusion and oxygen, diffusion and osmosis. All those are very, very important for your human and social biology exam. There is also the specimen plate with the culture of the bacteria. You need to know that, and I did cover that on one of the past paper I did. I don't remember which one. So make sure that you are burning the night oil now. How do I know if you are studying? If you are using my platform and any of the 200 videos that I have on the platform, I can see it in the back end, and I usually say, oh, wow, I'm encouraged. You're doing some work. I need to get some past paper out that they can have some more work to do. If you are not watching them, then I have more free time to do other things. All right? So again, I've said it a million times. Thanks much for stopping by. Continue to enjoy the rest of your day. Yes, we're going to be having a show on Sunday. I'm going to be doing my best to have all shows until we finish the syllabus. And yes, we're going to be doing some more past paper. I don't know. I might start the show a little earlier. If I start the show a little earlier, it's because we're doing the marathon. I'm going to be using the same thumbnail for the marathon. I'm not going to use the old thumbnail. I'm going to use this thumbnail for the marathon. And we're going to try, how many questions we did this evening? Anybody can tell me? So we're going to try to do 30 questions for the next live. 30. So we might do 15 and 15. I'm not too sure. It might come from many past papers. Please be reminded to send me the multiple choice past papers. For HSB, we need a lot of HSB paper. Let me tell you something. We're all going to pass these exams. We're going to be getting ones, 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 ones. Just study, study. Make sure that you are doing what the syllabus wants you to do and nothing else. Remember, the entire syllabus will be tested on the multiple choice paper, but we have a good idea as to what will be on the paper too. The question 4, 5, and 6. Well, it is not even so safe to say because I have seen human and social biology paper where the last part of the syllabus are the first 3 questions on the paper. All right. So if you can get a paper 2 that is worked and you see the last part of the syllabus anywhere on the paper, make sure you have those questions locked because those are going to be on your exam. The last part of the syllabus, we're sure that it's going to be there. I'm very happy to have you. Good evening.